What if we were to punch back at Fagenbaucher? How?
In Young Sheldon, Georgie first became entangled in Meemaw's gambling business as a reluctant participant, drawn in by her persuasion and the lure of easy money. At the time, Georgie's participation was largely reactive. He was coaxed into taking small risks to help Meemaw, while also looking for ways to support his family. Now owning Jim's auto shop outright and having convinced Ruben to invest alongside him, Georgie feels intense pressure to provide for his family in his first marriage. Complicating matters, Jim's old rival, Fred Fagenbaucher, is undercutting the market, literally giving away tires for free in Season 2, Episode 4.
Fagenbaucher offered us a great deal on the church buses, so...
A deal they cannot match, despite Georgie's surprising financial literacy. In desperation, Georgie takes the initiative, plotting an illegal sabotage scheme. He and Ruben break into Fagenbaucher's lot at night, pouring bleach into the engines of his tow trucks, leaving Georgie's company as the only viable option. Georgie is now the mastermind, dragging Ruben along in a definitely criminal, poorly thought-out plan to stay afloat. Georgie's lies will inevitably lead to the first divorce, especially with Mandy's work trip. Next episode. Georgie's lies are poised to set the stage for divorce in First Marriage Season 2. Mandy has already noticed odd behaviors. Georgie taking calls late at night that she can't hear and showering excessively, the classic hallmarks of someone hiding an affair. In reality, Mandy is partly correct. Georgie does have a guilty conscience. He's teetering on the brink of Lady Macbeth-style paranoia, haunted by the lingering scent of bleach on his hands, a psychological reminder of the sabotage he carried out to protect his business. What Mandy doesn't suspect, however, is the truth. The sweet teen she married is now using mob-style tactics to run his tow shop. Georgie's surprising villain turn is hidden behind a country twang and his salesman's charm, even if they aren't fooling Mandy. The tension intensifies as Season 2, Episode 5 promos emphasize Mandy's overnight work trip as a weather girl with her producer, who also happens to be her ex-boyfriend. This situation has previously been a source of friction, but combined with her growing suspicion of Georgie's affair, it may push her toward a decision she wouldn't otherwise make. Georgie seems like a sweet kid in First Marriage, but as his very introduction to his future wife showed, he's comfortable lying when it suits him. Georgie's mother might be an upstanding Christian woman, but his Meemaw is whispering in Georgie's other ear, tempting him to the dark side. Meemaw brought Georgie into her morally gray bookie business back in Young Sheldon, a plot line that carried over to First Marriage when Mandy gets involved with Meemaw, creating significant tension between the newlyweds. When Georgie feels the weight of being the provider for his family, he's willing to bend his Christian morals. Now that Georgie has bought his father's auto shop in the First Marriage Season 1 finale, his monetary stress is more acute than ever. This pressure leads Georgie to take drastic, actually illegal, action against his competition and, even more worryingly, lie to Mandy about it. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, Season 2, manages to pay off a Cooper family conflict from 4 years ago. CBS's #1 comedy is back for network TV's 2024-2025 cycle with a more established premise. Now, alongside Georgie and Mandy's collective story, the spin-off sequel is also starting to delve deeper into the McAllisters' narrative. Thus far, Season 2 has been doing a good job of endearing Mandy's family to viewers. Audrey remains Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage's true villain, but there's no denying that she is now far more fleshed out than when she was first introduced. That same goes for Jim, as well as scene stealer Connor. However, since Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is standing on the shoulders of Young Sheldon, some stories will inevitably tie to The Big Bang Theory's first ever offshoot. That's exactly what happened in A Will and a Dead Man's Wife, when Jim asks his kids about how to handle a huge amount of money. Georgie's financial literacy is in full display in First Marriage Season 2, Episode 3. While Georgie vehemently objects to Mary dating again, the subject of having a will becomes the topic of conversation for Mandy's parents in the outing. Motivated by landing a lot of money after the sale of their business and the unexpected death of George, Jim and Audrey discuss how they should handle their wealth, including how to divide it between Mandy and Connor. The problem is that neither their daughter nor their son has shown the financial capability to handle a substantial amount of inheritance money. Connor reveals he wants to use it for a bad business venture, while Mandy endeavors to prioritize shopping, both concerning answers. When Jim asks Georgie, however, George and Mary's son has a solid answer. Put half of it in Cece's college fund and then the rest on stocks and bonds. Georgie's plan is so good, even Audrey can't say anything bad about it in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, Season 2, Episode 3. How dropping out of school actually helped Georgie in becoming a successful entrepreneur in TBBT. While Georgie has always had a special talent with regard to dealing with tires, being more responsible when it comes to money came a little later, specifically in Young Sheldon Season 5. At this point, he surprised his parents with a decision to drop out of high school so he could work full-time. Understandably, his parents were mad, but unlike Mary, who was more lenient, George used the opportunity to keep his son accountable for his decision, which included paying for his own bills. This forced Georgie to be more mindful of the money he earned from working with Dale. Instead of blowing them off with ridiculous things, like when he bought a van in Young Sheldon Season 4, he was more responsible for his finances, knowing that he had responsibilities. That sense of responsibility was ingrained in him, paving the way for a more financially smart young man in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Comparing him to Mandy, who is much older but still doesn't know how to properly handle her money, Georgie's approach to finances is impressive in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. While he is willing to take bigger risks to grow his business, he's also fiscally conservative, which makes for the perfect entrepreneur. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 2, Episode 3, brings back the Coopers in a shockingly emotional storyline. While the first 2 episodes of the Young Sheldon sequel focused on its titular couple, as well as their life with the McAllisters, TV's #1 comedy revisits its roots with a plot that is rooted in George's shocking death. A year and a half has passed since Georgie's dad died, and it seems like everyone is ready to move on except for him. Born out of Young Sheldon's cancellation, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage's events kicked off not long after the Cooper family tragedy. While Georgie and Mandy already moved across town with the McAllisters, the growing family still lives in Medford, which makes bringing back Mary and Missy easier. The challenge now in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 2 is perfecting the balance between honoring the past and setting up its future. While its sophomore run has focused on its titular characters, A Will and a Dead Man's Wife offers an update on what Mary and Missy have been up to more than a year after the Cooper family tragedy. Surprisingly, the outing confirms that among the Coopers, there's only one who's still having a difficult time with the death of Georgie. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage, Season 2, Episode 3, reveals the harsh reality of George's death aftermath. Because Young Sheldon waited until the very last minute to be allowed to pull off George's death, the Big Bang Theory spin-off didn't have enough time to fully explore the grief that the Cooper family felt after the incident. Impressively, the CBS family dramedy effectively established how everyone handled grief differently. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage allows us to continue exploring this narrative. Impressively, the spin-off sequel reveals the surprising way that the remaining Texas-based Cooper has been holding up. Mary is thinking about dating again. A shock, given how she swore off love in the immediate aftermath of George's death. Missy, who had the most difficult time coping with losing her father and has had a tumultuous relationship with her mom, is suddenly supportive of Mary revisiting romance. Meanwhile, Georgie struggles to come to terms with his mom and sisters seemingly moving on from the loss of George. Considering how Mary helped Georgie secure the money for his business, it's interesting that he's openly against his mom finding companionship. Throughout this time, the Cooper's eldest has been the most pragmatic, which makes him so effective in taking over the family. But the outing is a reminder that, despite Georgie's usual cheery demeanor, his grief over his father's death still looms large over him. Still, from everyone else's perspective, it looks like he's simply getting in the way of his mom's happiness.